This is HVAKR for residential. I'm going to walk you through how to perform professional HVAC calcs and design for residential applications. HVAKR is a commercial grade design platform. That said, it comes in a very user-friendly package, which makes it perfect if you want to level up your design services. If you're looking for a comprehensive guide to HVAKR, check out this video where I give a tutorial on a commercial project. Let's dive in. So I'm going to show you two different workflows for residential HVAC design. The first workflow is getting a quick block load, and this is great for changeouts and retrofits on existing homes. I'm going to create a project and enter my project name and address. Now I'm going to start from a template, and this being a residence, I'll do residential project type, and that's also going to bring in residential space types. Now when I create this project, HVAKR will find the climate zone that this home is in, the project location, and it's going to bring in essentially all your code minimums for your wall types, window types, and your space types for this project. Through some of these steps here, this general tab just provides general information about your project. It isn't required for the calcs, but it might be good documentation for you or your team. The weather step shows you the project location and the nearest weather stations to that project. It will automatically select the nearest one and bring in that outdoor design data. If I scroll down, I'll see what those values are. I can adjust design percentages or even just hard override these values if I want to. In the building tab, this was pre-populated for me based on the climate zone that my project is in and this being residential. So I have ASHRAE standard 90.1 minimums already set up in this table. And these are the wall types and window types that I can pull from when I go to define my building. Should you choose, you can go in and fine tune these values to your heart's content. I know I'm going to be using this wood framed wall with the baseline values for this calculation. I'm going to be using fixed windows with these parameters and an attic roof with an unheated slab. Now space criteria, this has pre-populated my basic residential space types, living areas and bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom, and with each of these I have a set of design requirements. So we have our indoor set point here, we have ventilation requirements here, infiltration I can adjust as needed, exhaust requirements, and interior loads. I want a quick block load, so I'm going to keep going. I don't have a set of plans for this project, so I'm going to skip over sheet library, which is where I would normally bring in my floor plans, and go straight to layout, sheets. And for this particular project, I'm going to utilize this map view. This is going to show me a satellite image of my project location. If I zoom out here, I can see this is the home that I'm doing calculations for. So this can save me a site visit. It saves me having to dig up a set of old floor plans. I can go straight here and I can work on top of this to do my block load. When I go to spaces, I'm going to create a space for this home. And because I'm doing a block, I just need one space to cover the perimeter of the home. So I'll go ahead and outline this home like so. And then I'll connect the dots. So here's my block. This is about a 3,500 square foot home. And once this space is created, I can select it and define it. So I'm just going to call this my home block. My space type is going to be my generic living area space type. There's a calculated number of people. I can go in and adjust that if I want to, maybe family of 5. Once this is defined, I'll move on to my envelope step. And this is where I'm going to define my walls and windows. For my walls, I'm going to assign a wall and select my wood framed wall. From here, I'm going to select all the line segments that represent that exterior wall and hit enter. And now I have those walls defined. Windows, if I don't have the exact window dimensions and know exactly where those windows are, I can use kind of a rough rule of thumb glazing area to assign windows to these walls. So this comes in handy when you are trying to do quick block loads. You don't have window dimensions. You don't know exactly where it is. I'm going to assume 25% glazing area. And I'm going to select my window type here. Now with that selected, I can select the walls that are going to have those windows, and it will place 25% glazing to those walls. I can hit enter there. Following that, I want to make sure my roof and my slab are defined. So I'm going to assign a roof to this space type. This is my attic and other roof, and I'll select that, and I'm good to go. Now slab is the same interface. I want to assign a slab to this home, select that, and we're good to go. So now if I go to my envelope preview, I'm going to see the geometries that I just created. With that complete, I can actually go back to my spaces. I can select this space, scroll down here, and here are my loads. It peaks in August around 3 or 4 p.m., just over 3 tons of cooling required. Here's a breakdown, lighting load, equipment, people, walls, windows, etc. Over here, I have my heating load. So this shows me a breakdown of my heating, almost 40 MBH. So that may be all you need. From there, I can actually skip over all the zoning. I can go to loads, summary. This shows me my whole project, so this is fine. And this is going to give me all that data. Ultimately, I have my total load over here, 3.17 tons. This can be printed as a report using the reports feature here. Generate my heating and cooling loads PDF. You hit generate, and that will download your report. That's one application. Very quick block load for a home where you don't have a set of plans. You can find it on the map, take off the perimeter, and get some calcs very quickly, specific to your location and climate zone, specific to the geometries of the home with commercial grade accuracy. Another application is a more in-depth space-by-space load calc, airflow calculations, zoning, and duct design. So let me create a new project to show you what that full process looks like. Let's create a new project and name our project. Provide the address. And I'm still going to start from a template here. This is going to speed up the process significantly, but with the template, I can go in and it is going to pre-populate a lot of my wall types, window types for me, just like on the last project. So now I'm starting here. Again, I do not need to input anything in the general tab. My weather data is good. I'm going to go to my building data here and confirm I have the wall types that I need. This also is going to be wood framed, but in this application, I'm also going to show what having multiple wall types on the same project looks like. So I'm going to assign one of those wall types as mass walls. These are all going to be fixed windows with these parameters. I won't adjust these, though I could. And roof is going to be attic, unheated slab. For my space types here, particular project, I want to add an additional space type. I've got a corridor area and an atrium area that's not going to be occupied, and I want to make sure I reflect that. So instead of creating a new space type from scratch, I encourage people to import space types from these libraries instead. It'll cover a lot of the inputs for you, and then you can just make tweaks as needed instead of doing everything from scratch. So the space type I need is a corridor. Scroll down and import this space type to my project. I'm going to adjust the set point to match the rest of my set points here and review the additional requirements. Now I'm going to go to system criteria. And because I'm going to do duct design on this project, I am going to create my low pressure supply duct type. If you're not sure what good sizing parameters are for your duct, for low pressure ductwork, I recommend 0.08 inches of pressure drop per 100 feet and a max velocity of 1,200 feet per minute. You can also set your max height. So if you know you're constricted, you can set a maximum height for your ductwork, and when the program sizes your ductwork, it will follow these guidelines. I'm also going to create my return ductwork because I want to view those separately. I'm going to create exhaust ductwork as well. Sizing parameters, but I want to differentiate these in my duct design with colors, and I also want them broken out in my duct takeoff, which we'll see at the very end. So with this setup, I can move forward and import my floor plans. For this project, I actually have a set of architectural floor plans, and this is the upload dialog. So to upload your floor plans, select upload new sheets. You can name your version set, specify a date. This is just to keep track of the different sets that you upload, and then drop your PDF into this box. From here, I can upload it, and it's going to extract all the pages in my PDF and give me the different sheets for my project. Now that this is uploaded, I can go through, provide a little more information for each sheet, and bring them into my project. Now I just need to go through and specify which level does this sheet belong on, and what is the scale. Now, this particular project is a custom scale of 1 to 100, so I'm going to use that. I can set my slab to slab height and ceiling height for this project here. I'll bring in my second floor as well, following the same scaling, and then I'm also going to bring in my roof. Now, here's another trick. I'm going to enter my specific window dimensions and placements on this project, and I happen to have a window schedule for this project. So I'm also going to bring in this window schedule, but I'm just going to place it on one of my levels and use it for reference. And with those sheets, I can proceed. I'm going to select here these sheets that I want to bring in, not that one, this one, and this one, and then import. And now when I go to layout sheets, I'm going to see those sheets added to my various levels, like so. This is my window schedule. So I'm just going to move this off to the side for now, and I'm going to be working on top of this. A couple tips for your sheet setup. I like to crop things nice and tight so that it looks really clean on my drawings and any views that I export from HVAKR. Now, here's another tip. I want to make sure that these sheets are all aligned vertically, which if you have a good set of drawings, they may already be aligned, but if not, you can confirm that by using this marker tool right here, finding an intersection for your grid lines and placing that marker on your canvas. Now when I go up and down levels, I can see if these sheets are in fact aligned, and I can adjust them as needed. So that setup is going to make sure that you have a really smooth workflow moving forward. One more thing I want to cover with this step is right here, you'll see plan rotation. This is where you can adjust for true north. So if true north is offset from plan north in the floor plans you have, you can go here and you can adjust your rotation to account for that. Now with all these sheets in place, I'm going to move on to my spaces. And this time, instead of just doing a block load, I'm actually going to do a space by space load calculation and get the airflows that I need. There are a couple ways to do this. There's the manual way, and then there's the AI way. The manual way, I'll show you first. You create a space, and then you would take off your spaces. I'll take this off here, like so. I can also use a rectangle tool to do this a little faster. And once these spaces are created, I would select them and I would assign my space type here. That's a bedroom. This here is a kitchen. With the kitchen, I'm going to specify my exhaust units. In this case, that would be stovetops. So I have one stovetop range. That's going to give me some exhaust for that. If you don't have exhaust in your kitchen, recirculating kitchen hood, then you can put 0 for that. From here, I can follow the same workflow and take off the rest of my spaces on all my levels. And then I can go to my envelope and I can assign my wall types here. Here's a wood framed wall for these line segments here and here. And I can start building out my project that way. However, there's a faster way to do it, which I'm going to show you now. This time, instead of taking this off manually, I'm going to use this AI automation to do all that for me. This is reading the plans, recognizing where the walls are, and taking off your spaces automatically. Then it will read the room names and assign space types based on those room names. All you have to do is confirm the results and make any adjustments as necessary. So this takeoff is done for me, and I can confirm here and see the various spaces that it created. Here's the master bedroom. This recognized that it's a master bedroom. However, the space type was not determined, and so I'm going to choose the space type for it. This one, it did recognize as bedroom, so this is good. I can also see which spaces weren't recognized by these red dots here in my list. So WC, this is my water closet, and so I'm going to select the bathroom space type. This actually recognized the number of restrooms there and assigned the exhaust units for me, which is pretty handy. This last one, balcony, I know is not a conditioned space, so I can just right click and delete this. If you needed to adjust any of the geometry for these spaces, you could go in, right click, hit edit, and then you can make adjustments there as needed. If you hold shift, you can add nodes, and this will allow you to make further adjustments like so. Hit enter to confirm your changes, and this takeoff is done. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the other level and move on to envelope. Okay, I have all my spaces defined. So going to envelope, I showed you could assign walls, roof, and slab manually, but there's an automation that speeds this up as well. So let's do that. Here, I can do this envelope automation for all my levels, and I just need to specify what my wall type is. I'm going to leave off windows for now. I'm going to do that manually. I'll specify what my roof type is and what my slab is. When I run that, it's going to automatically recognize all my exterior walls and ignore all my interior. And this gives me my envelope. It will also pick up my roof and my slab. This is what that looks like currently. So I've got my envelope, but I do not have my windows. So let's go back and do those windows. So if you recall, I added my window schedule to the canvas, and so I can go over here to reference that as I take off my windows. And this is going to show me the dimensions I need for each window type, and I can go in and place them. So to create windows that are specific to dimensions, you can create your window here and input those dimensions. From here, I choose my window type, and I can also specify shading should I choose. Once this is all set up, I can hit enter, and then I can place these windows on my floor plans like so. If you realize you placed the wrong size window in a particular area, you can select it and you can make changes on the fly to reflect the size that's represented on the drawings. Another trick available to you when defining windows is if you do not have a good window schedule, you can actually use the space creation tool to do takeoffs. So if you have an elevation drawing over here, you can use space creation to get measurements on that elevation drawing and figure out what the size of your windows are that way. So with that said, I'm going to build out the rest of my windows. Okay, with windows defined, the other thing I'm going to show you is how to assign different wall types onto your project. So I use the automation to quickly assign a wood-framed wall to my entire project, but let's pretend the north facade is actually a brick wall. Select this wall type, and then I'm going to change it to mass wall. And now I'm going to make sure I specify a different color just so I can see the different wall types clearly. I'm going to do the same here on level 2. So now I have 2 different wall types on my project, and when I view that in the preview, I'll be able to see black is my wood framed wall and brown is my brick wall there. And here you can also see I have all my window placements completed. So with that, let's move on to zoning. So for this project, I'm going to have 2 zones, level 1 and level 2. To create zones, you go to the Zones tab and create zone. Then you can name your zone. I'll call this AC1. Select a color, assign spaces, and select the spaces that belong on that zone. Then hit enter or click out, and this becomes my first zone. Now I'll do the same on level 2. Okay, with these zones created, I can actually select a zone and preview my loads for that zone. After I create my zones, I'm going to create my systems. So this is going to be a 1-for-1 heat pump. So my systems are going to reflect my zones. It's the exact interface here. I'm going to create my system, and this is going to assign my zone to that system. This is fairly common in residential applications. In commercial applications, you're likely going to have multiple zones all served by the same central unit. With this zone assignment done, I can move on to loads configuration, and I'm going to see a diagram of the systems that I set up. A couple steps here, and we'll be able to calculate airflows, get coil loads, and get a full loads report. This diagram is set up to reflect the air side design for your equipment. I will configure the terminal units to have return air coming from the zone, cooling component, and heating component. With that selected, it's going to ask for outside air going to that space. This would be your ventilation air. So you can specify sum of spaces, and then from there, we ask for a cooling supply air temperature and heating supply air temperature. These are very important values needed to determine your design CFMs. If I don't have any forced ventilation going into this home, then I'm going to make this 0. However, if I do have ventilation going into this home, then these indoor units will have to handle that load. So in this case, let's change this to sum of spaces. This will bring in the calculated amount of ventilation required. And then with the central unit here, I'm also going to indicate that there is outside air coming into that space. However, this outside air is not going to be conditioned prior to entering the space. So this would just be like having a forced blower that's going to bring that outside air in. And here, I'm also going to specify sum of spaces. From there, with these discharge air temperatures specified, our next step, air balancing, is going to show all of the required CFMs for these various spaces. So now I'm back on my canvas and I'm looking at a space-by-space report of all my CFMs, which is extremely helpful for design, for balancing. This is a great deliverable, but also this is a prerequisite to dry side design. But before we get there, let's pass over the load summary here and review our results. This will show me my loads for the entire project. So about 2.5 tons of cooling for both zones. Here I can expand these and I can look at the load for a system, a zone, or individual spaces if I want to review those. If I'm looking at this zone right here, AC1, it will show me 1.37 tons of total load for that zone. Here, it'll show me my space sensible and the total airflow for that zone. This is a breakdown of all the different load components in the space, and this is miscellaneous load components that are affected at the system level or the zone level. As I scroll down, I'll also see some terminal cooling data. So this is going to give me my cooling load based on the psychrometrics for that zone, for that equipment, what my final design CFMs are, and also it's based on my discharge air temperature. As I keep scrolling, I'll see some checksums, which are nice. This says, hey, we're at about 500 square foot per ton. That kind of gives you a gut check. And then down at the bottom is all the same information, but for my heating load. This can all be printed in a report. If I go down here to reports, generate report, and choose heating and cooling loads PDF. I can also export the loads as a CSV file if I want to. Now, let's get to dry side design. So we were just looking at air balancing. We have all these airflows now for these spaces. I'm going to go to dry side design and walk you through actually finishing the duct design for these zones. This is the workflow that I like to do. I'm going to color code my different duct types. And if you remember from the beginning, I set up these duct types and I specified some basic sizing requirements for those duct types. Here's my supply, here's my return, and here's my exhaust. Now I'm going to go to registers and I'm going to do my register layout. It will be a ducted AC unit in the ceiling with ceiling diffusers. So here I can select a diffuser, and before I place this on my drawings, first I'm going to adjust the tag. So I can tag this however I want, and I can also change what the dimensions of this diffuser are. Maybe it's more like a 16 by 8. So I can set up the dimensions for that diffuser before I start placing. Now before I start placing these diffusers, I'm going to change my view. This is where you can turn on your space view, you can see your zones or your systems. Spaces is helpful because it shows you your CFMs as you're placing them. I'm also going to turn on annotation so I can see the CFM as I'm placing. Now, when I place this on the space, because we already have the amount of CFM required, it will automatically apply the required CFM that this diffuser needs to provide. And you'll see if I place a second one in this space, it's going to divide that up between the two diffusers. Here, I just need one for the kitchen, so I'm going to remove that diffuser. And maybe I'll move it right over here. Now, I'm going to complete my diffuser layout for I can right click, for instance, rotate this diffuser and hit enter to confirm. And for my return, I'm going to place that right here. Now, quick note on return. A lot of cases you're going to have a central return that's actually serving all of the spaces in your zone, especially in residential. I'm not actually going to have a return grill in each space. So I need to adjust the spaces that this return grill is responsible for. To do that, I'm going to select the grill, go over here, and manually assign spaces. And now I can select all the spaces that this return grill is responsible for. When I hit enter, now you'll see that this total CFM is the total for all the spaces on this level. And that gives me the right amount of airflow. Lastly, I'm going to drop in an exhaust grill for this restroom right here. Okay, now that my diffuser layout is complete, I'm going to place my AC unit. To place it, go to terminal, and you're going to select the correct unit for your zone. And if you need a reminder, you can change your view to zones here. Say, okay, this is AC1. I'm going to select AC1, and I'm going to place it where that goes. Now from here, I'll make a few adjustments. Maybe rotate it this way. I'll turn this off to clean it up. This is going to show me several inlets and outlets for this unit. This one right here would represent my outside air coming in. The red inlet represents my return, and the blue represents my supply. So if my AC unit is placed right here in the ceiling, then I'll be bringing return in right here, and my supply will be coming out here. You can also adjust whether this is coming out the side, back, front, by adjusting those inlets and outlets. So now I'm going to place my ductwork. You're going to select the duct type that you'd like to draw and start connecting the dots. So I may bring this out straight here, and then branch out to supply these diffusers here, and this one may come out to supply this one here. Then I'm going to connect my return like so. With this layout done, I'll switch to my double line view, and then to size your ductwork, hit the size button. This is automatically going to determine how much airflow is in each duct segment, and it will size the ductwork for you. Now I'll go ahead and do the same thing with level 2. Okay, level 1 and level 2 are done. I can also check out this preview and see what that looks like in 3D. This is just a simple 3D duct preview so I can see both my systems. One other feature I'll show you with duct design is I can select this button here, and this is going to find the critical path for my system and give me a breakdown of my pressure losses and ultimately give me my external static pressure for this system. On level 1, I can place these central units outside where those condenser units are going to live. So I might take CU1, adjust the dimensions here, and I can place this out here. I don't need to connect this to anything, but this just becomes an equipment tag where I can identify where my outdoor units are going to be placed. To export this view as a PDF and create your HVAC set, you can select this export canvas button and choose your page size, export, and it's going to give you a to-scale PDF of what you see here. Last thing I'll show you, if you are installing this, schedules duct will be helpful as well. This will give you a takeoff of your design. So all the ductwork that you drew, it's going to break it out by duct type, duct size, and length of duct, along with the number of fittings for each of those categories. And now I want to go over the different reports you can create out of this to create a really killer HVAC design package. I already showed you how to export your duct design to a PDF, but you can also use that export feature at various steps within HVACR. When I go to my zones, I'll see that same button here. I can export my zone map in the same fashion that I export my HVAC design. Maybe you want to export your air balancing. This map as well, you can use this button to export this as a PDF and use that as part of your package. And then finally, you've got all your typical reports. So down here in reports, you can generate a report and you'll see a few options. The basis of design PDF is going to take all those values that you set up at the beginning, the location, the weather data, your different wall types, window types, the different spaces, the set points, basically all your design requirements. It's going to take these tables, package it up in a nice PDF. You can download that to your device and include that in your design package. The heating and cooling loads PDF we talked about, that's all of the loads data in PDF format, which you can also export in a CSV format if you just wanted a spreadsheet with all of that information. And then lastly, your space, ventilation, and airflow CSV. This is going to give you all of your airflows for your spaces. So it's similar to that air balancing step where you have each of your spaces and all the airflows associated with that, except it includes a lot more information. Required ventilation, exhaust rates, required exhaust, the entire breakdown of how we got to our design CFMs for supply, return, exhaust, and outdoor air. That's a full guide to using HVACR in residential applications. First, we talked about a very quick block load kind of retrofit change out scenario, and then followed up with a much more in-depth full space by space load calc, airflow, and duct design. If you have interest in exploring this further, or if you have any questions, things I didn't cover in this video, you can find our contact at hvakr.com, hvakr.com.